We're here today in Camden, one of the fly tipping hotspots in the UK. Last year alone here, there were 34,789 reported fly tipping incidents, making it the second worst borough in London and the UK as a whole. Today I'm here with Victoria Atkins, the Shadow Environment Secretary, and we've come to see the fly tipping and the scale of the problem for ourselves.
So we're surrounded by waste right now, and a lot of it could be stemmed from bins being not collected. Obviously, in Birmingham at the moment, we've got the crisis going on, cities and bins. Is London going to go in the same way?
Well, we've just walked out of Kentish Town Tube Station and found this within metres of the tube. So we know that this is a real problem in Camden. We know, sadly, in other councils across London, it's a huge problem as well. What we as Conservatives want to see are effective tools to tackle not just people who are throwing their rubbish in bins, but also to tackle fly tipping. We want to make fly tippers responsible for the cost of cleaning up their fly tipping. So in my own constituency in Lincolnshire, my farmers have often had to clear fields full of rubbish that people have fly tipped there, and that can cost thousands. We've even heard reports of £100,000 to clear a field of fly tip waste.
Whilst walking around Camden, we bumped into Terry, a local resident who has to deal with fly tipping and overfilling bins every single day at his doorstep.
I live here. I've lived there for 42 years, next door in the flats. But it's clean, but now, even down Camden Ice, it's just rubbish. Squatters.
Okay.
Well, that's not their programme. Council should be up there, but they should be doing something about this.
And what do you think could be done? Like more harsher penalties for people who do it?
Well, they've got camera recognition. Why don't you have cameras on the bins? So you can see who's throwing out then, can't you? Why don't you just clean? We're getting like Birmingham. Look. It's like a bit off. This is just disgusting, these bins. They're no good, they're useless. And it's just enough fags for people to live here. It's builders' rubbish, look, everywhere. Just rubbish everywhere. It's just all Camden at the moment.
GBNews spoke with residents in Birmingham, where litter is piling up amid strike action by rubbish collectors. They told us how they were feeling about the current crisis.
Oh, it's awful. It's disgusting. It's horrible to just, when I'm walking the dog, there's so much rubbish on the floor, and it's just really put a horrible vibe on the whole city.
They need to get around the table and talk.
And what are you doing with your rubbish?
Well, stacking on the end of the road. All our bins are full now. We're having to store it in the house. We've just had a council tax rise. I mean, why should we pay that when we're not getting a job done?
Becoming a mountain now. Also, there's also piles of bins just piling up on the street corners. And it's becoming a mountain of rubbish now, and they have to do something.
Yeah, you are seeing on our television screens the terrible conditions that Birmingham residents are having to live in, where you've got, I've told, cat-sized rats roaming around because of the mountains of rubbish that the Labour Council in Birmingham has allowed to build up. And this is because they're in an argument with their own trade union that paid them, I think, £7 million over the last year or so. And that extraordinary amount of money, we now see the council is not able to deal with the consequences of the talks it's having with the union to breaking down.
Fly tipping incidents in England have reached a record high of 1.15 million in 2023 to 2024, according to new government figures. This represents a 6% increase from the 1.08 million incidents reported the previous year. Data from the Environment Department shows that 60% of cases involved household waste, with 688,000 incidents of illegally dumped rubbish from homes. The figures mark the highest level in 6 years. Nearly a third, 31%, of incidents were the size of a small van load, while 28% were equivalent to a car boot or less. However, 4% were tipper lorry load size or larger, costing local authorities £13.1 million to clean up. This represents an 11% increase in large-scale incidents from the previous year.
If you've got the smell from even these relatively small amounts of fly tipping, imagine if you're living in Birmingham at the moment and you've got mountains of rubbish that big. The stench must be overpowering. I mean, look at this. I love our capital city. I'm proud of our country. And looking at this, whether it's here in Camden, the Prime Minister's own constituency, or whether it's further afield in beautiful rural areas such as my own constituency. We do not want this rubbish on our streets and in our fields. And the government's got to get a grip on this. To imagine, local residents would be walking past this, and indeed we've seen ourselves this morning, just as we've been wandering around, people stepping over rubbish. And the latest rural crime survey, the number one worry for people living in rural areas is agricultural theft, stealing, tractors, etc.
Yeah.
The second worry, though, is fly tipping, and this is why it's so great that GBNews is putting such a focus on this, because there will be thousands and thousands of people across the country who see this in their city centres, in local fields and their market towns, on their coastlines, and they don't understand why it's not being cleared up by the relevant councils.
But could there be more to this problem than many people realise? While some fly tipping is done by individuals, this is far from the complete picture. Operating in the shadows is a network of organised criminals who are paid by residents to dispose of bulky items. Waste crime has been referred to by the head of the Environment Agency as the new narcotics, and costs the British economy as much as £1 billion annually.
So 60% of all fly-tipped waste in 2023 to 2024 was household waste. But we know it's not just the average resident that's just doing all this. There is an element of criminals organising themselves and dumping trucks of them on sides of roads, potentially pavements. So the organised crime element, how pressing is this, and why do we need to stop this immediately?
You're absolutely right. We see this particularly in rural areas, which is why as Shadow Environment Secretary, I'm so concerned to ensure that Labour gets its act together in the crime policing bill. It's why we want, for example, to be able to put points on offenders' driving licences, because we know that they would be carrying, as you've rightly said, vans, cars, possibly even lorries of waste to rural areas to dump it there, and also to ensure that these offenders pay the price for clearing up their waste. Why should a farm or a local community have to bear the cost of clearing these terrible, terrible, noxious substances very often that we see dumped in rural areas? Why should they have to bear the cost of this? The polluter should pay, and this again is why we're putting an amendment down, and we hope the government will see sense and accept this amendment to ensure that the offender, the polluter, must pay in these circumstances. We want to ensure that rural communities feel as protected as they deserve to feel. We know that organised crime gangs can play sadly, a very, very chilling and sinister effect in rural communities, whether it's fly tipping, whether it's hair coursing, or these sorts of rural crimes. But the long and the short of it is, we all pay our council tax, and here in the Prime Minister's own constituency, where council tax would be going up this week, residents would be right to look at this and think, is this Labour Council really providing us with value for money?
On our walk around Camden, we had complaints from one resident who wished to remain anonymous, who said he had taken matters into his own hands to clean his local space.
Well, we know that across the country there are some amazing volunteers who go and pick up rubbish in their local area and clear communal areas. And indeed, just now, this morning, we have met one local resident who had taken it upon himself to go clear a local park because the council wasn't doing it. And whilst, of course, we want to encourage people to look after and take care of their neighbours, equally, we do understand their complaint. At a time when council taxes are going up, particularly in Labour-run councils, they would expect the council to play their part in keeping our streets, our parks and our neighbourhoods clean. So, of course, none of us should be dropping litter, that goes without saying. But if people have this sort of ness in their local area, then I think it's completely fair of residents to ask the question, well, we're paying our council tax, what are we getting for it? And we would expect rubbish collection to be part of that service provided by local council.
GBNews reached out to Camden Council but did not receive a response. Since the recording of this video, several London councils, including Camden, have announced they will be imposing £1,000 fines for those caught fly tipping. However, the number of people actually being punished for the offence is dipping. Last year, the number of fixed penalty notices issued by local authorities was down by 5%. Stop Trashing Britain is a gbnews.com campaign calling for harsher penalties to those who do not respect our shared spaces. Sign our petition now to call on the government to introduce a minimum fine of £1,000 for littering or fly tipping and to enforce mandatory jail sentences of at least 3 months upon a third conviction.